I received a love letter from someone long dead. Every family has its secrets, right? Little stories locked away behind front doors, or buried so deep in the past we forget they're even there. We go through our lives thinking we know exactly who we are and where we come from. But what if the past could call out to you? Not in a whisper, but with a name. Your name. As a historian, my entire career is about piecing together the lives of others, giving a voice to people who have been silent for centuries. I've always seen myself as an observer of history. I never imagined history might be trying to get my attention. I've unsealed thousands of documents in my life. Brittle paper, faded ink. They're the building blocks of the past. But one letter was different. It came from a collection of undelivered mail seized from a captured French warship over 250 years ago. As I carefully broke the wax seal, I wasn't prepared for what I found. This wasn't just some historical artifact. It was a love letter written during the 7 Years' War, and it began with 2 words that have haunted me ever since. Dearest Sarah. My name is Sarah. Section 1, The Impossible Letter. The letter was part of the prize papers. It's this enormous archive of documents the British Royal Navy seized from enemy ships between the 17th and 19th centuries. For hundreds of years, these papers, including tens of thousands of undelivered letters, just sat in storage. Now, a massive international project run by a team at the University of Oldenburg and the UK National Archives is finally bringing these stories to light, and the things they're finding are just incredible. A historian at Cambridge, Renaud Morieux, uncovered a whole bundle of letters from a French ship called the Galatée, which was captured in 1758. One of them was a heartbreaking message from a woman named Marie Dubosc to her sailor husband, Louis Chamberlain. She wrote about her all-consuming love, having no idea he was already a prisoner of war. She would die the next year, and her words never ever reached him. Now, the letter I found came from that exact same ship, the Galatée. The paper was thin, the French script was elegant but looked hurried. It was signed, Your devoted husband, Jean-Luc Martel. He wrote about the biting Atlantic winds, his longing for home, and a love that felt more real than the creaking ship around him. He prayed for a safe return to his dearest Sarah. Reading it felt like I was intruding on this deeply personal moment, frozen in time. And I just couldn't shake the question echoing in my head. Who was this other Sarah? Was this just a 1 in a billion coincidence? Or was it something more? This is the point where the historian in me got pushed aside by the storyteller, and I had to follow the thread. Section 2. The search for Jean-Luc Martel. My first step was to find the man who wrote the letter. If Jean-Luc Martel was on the Galatée when it was captured, a record of him had to exist somewhere. So I turned to the crew manifests that researchers have been painstakingly putting together from old muster rolls and prisoner of war lists. It's slow, tedious work, matching names and ranks across documents that are often damaged and scattered. I spent days glued to the digital archives, just scanning list after list of sailors, Marines, and officers. And then, there he was. Jean-Luc Martel, able seaman. The record was sparse, but it was electric. It noted he was from the Saint-Malo region in Brittany, and that he'd been pressed or forced into service. This was a common fate for so many young men in port towns. He wasn't a career military man. He was just a guy, probably a husband and father, ripped from his family to go fight in a global war. But this is where the story takes a darker turn. I started digging into the English records of French prisoners. The conditions on the prison hulks, these old decommissioned ships used as floating jails, were notoriously awful, and disease was everywhere. After another week of scrolling through ledger after ledger, I found the final entry. Jean-Luc Martel. Died February 1759. Cause of death, typhus. A chaplain had scribbled a tiny note in the margin. Spoke of his wife, Sarah, until the end. The man who wrote the letter was dead. His message of love never made it home, and it seemed like that was the end of the story. Section 3. The ancestral echo. Except it wasn't the end for me, that name. Dearest Sarah, it just felt too personal to let go. Historians are trained to be objective, to stick to the evidence, not chase cosmic connections. But I'm also human. And for the first time, I turned my research skills on my own family history. My family tree on my mom's side is solidly Canadian, going back for generations. But the trail goes cold at a certain point. My fourth great-grandmother was listed simply as Sarah, an immigrant who arrived in Quebec in the late 1700s. Her maiden name, lost to time. It felt like a total long shot, a genealogical brick wall I'd never bothered to tackle before. I started where she had supposedly come from, the Channel Islands, a common stopover for French migrants heading to North America. I began digging through the parish and shipping records of Jersey, an island caught right between Britain and France. The breakthrough came late one night, buried in a barely legible 18th century passenger manifest for a ship that sailed from Jersey to Quebec in 1785. And there she was, a 45-year-old woman traveling alone. Her name was listed as Sarah Martel. My heart was pounding. Martel, the same last name as Jean-Luc. No way. Was she his sister, a cousin, or his widow? I frantically dug deeper into the Jersey archives, and that's when I found it, the final conclusive piece of this impossible puzzle. A marriage certificate from a church in St. Helier, dated 1786. It was her second marriage. The record clearly identified her as Sarah Martel, widow. And right next to her name, it noted her place of origin, a village I'd never heard of called Plouhinec, in Brittany. Section 4, The Story Reborn. Plouhinec didn't show up on any modern map. For a second, I felt that cold dread of a dead end. But after cross-referencing with some historical French maps, I found it. Plouhinec was an old, local name for a village that still exists today. Plouer-sur-Rance, just a few miles from Saint-Malo. The very place Jean-Luc Martel had been pressed into service. Suddenly, the entire story just fell into place. This was my Sarah, my great-great-great-great-grandmother. She had married a young sailor named Jean-Luc Martel. He was forced onto a naval ship, the Galatée. He wrote her a beautiful, desperate love letter to his dearest Sarah, but his ship was captured. He died all alone in a British prison, dreaming of her. And she, his widow, waited. I have no idea for how long. But eventually, like so many others looking for a new life, she crossed the ocean, first to Jersey, and then to Quebec, where she remarried and started the Canadian branch of my family. She never got the letter. She never knew her husband's last thoughts were of her, captured in ink and stored in a government archive for over 2 centuries. She died without ever knowing that her love story had been preserved. And now, through some bizarre twist of fate, it had fallen into my hands. The hands of her descendant, a historian who shared her name. Conclusion. I must have read that letter 100 times by now. It's not just a historical document anymore. It's a family heirloom. It's the voice of an ancestor I never knew, reaching out across time to another Sarah. Jean-Luc's words were a message in a bottle, tossed into the vast ocean of history, and against all odds, it found its way to shore. To me, it's just this incredible reminder that history isn't just about dates and wars and kings. It's about people. It's about love and loss and the amazing resilience of the human heart. It's the story of my family. Every family has a story like this, a mystery, maybe even a forgotten love letter waiting in an archive somewhere. These stories are what make us who we are. What secrets are hidden in your past? I'd love to hear about your own family history journeys in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing for more journeys into the past.